All right, recording started.
Great. Okay. There we go. It's connected. All right. So it is October 11th at 5:33 p.m. I'm going to call the meeting to order and call out roll call. Ben Wynn.
Here.
Andrew Franklin is here. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second that. On voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Okay. New business, gifted and talented.
Allison, do you want me to just roll with it? Okay, great. I'm just going to share my screen real quick. And we'll get to the correct tab, just a few here.
Jenica, I'm sorry, are you able to record?
I did.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I just wanted to do a quick reminder of the process that we went through. We did some work with the CISA consultant around on the Gifted and Talented Handbook. So just a reminder, we started in January, really with some observations. We started creation of the table of contents. We did some work around the vision statement. Went back, updated our workflow, again, some more observations. Reviewed some feedback from the leadership team around the draft. In February, we really dug in and started some handbook work. In June, we updated our workflow products again. And then in August, September, we did share a draft of the handbook out at a curriculum committee and got feedback from multiple stakeholders. And then there was adjustments made based on that feedback to the handbook. So I'd like to present the handbook again with the added additions of changes based on feedback. And then looking at October, we'd like to bring the handbook to the full board. And again, in October, we'd like to do some work around sharing out this information with our staff so we're transparent with the handbook for everyone, and then provide some PD for staff. And then finally, in November, we'd like to update our website all around Gifted and Talented and have the handbook posted. So that's kind of the workflow for it. I just wanted to remind everyone of the rubric that we utilized when looking at the handbook to gather feedback. This was also shared with multiple stakeholders via email as well. And we gathered all the feedback together. Lalitha, myself, and Taylor Dasso did some work on revising the handbook based on the feedback. So I'm just going to kind of walk through. It was added as an attachment to this meeting, but I'm just going to kind of walk through the changes, if that's okay. Does that sound good?
Sure.
All right.
This isn't the red line version, unfortunately, so I don't,
Oh,
yeah. Do you have a red line version?
no, I don't.
Okay. It might be good to get a comparison together. Yeah, just see where the changes are.
Instead, Jenica's gonna take the time right now to highlight all of the changes.
Well, not, yeah, I mean, not for right now, but I'm just saying, like, after we're done, I'd really like to see the comparison.
No, what we talked about was in place of taking the amount of time it would take to do a red line, she was just gonna highlight all the changes, similar to what we did with the student handbooks.
So, hold on, but as I go through here, whatever it is, however it's marked out, this version doesn't have the changes highlighted in it. And all I'm saying is that, it'd be nice to kind of, compare one version to the other or see where those changes were made. I mean, obviously that's what we're about to go through now. I'm not trying to, stymie the discussion.
No,
Yeah.
you're good. We'll just walk through it and then see how you're feeling at the
Sure.
end.
Yep. And I'd be happy to share the original version with you.
Yeah.
As well.
That'd probably be fine. I could do a comparison myself too.
Okay, so just looking at the handbook here, so the addition of the stakeholders that participated in the feedback were added to the initial page. Looking at the table of contents, there were some changes. Instead of having GT here, we added Gifted and Talented Programming. There were also some changes in the order. based on feedback as well. So we wanted to have acceleration by subject first, then subject level acceleration, followed by acceleration by grade level. So that was a change that was suggested during the feedback time. So that was part of the table of contents feedback. Then sorry, I'm scrolling a little fast. During the terminology, I'm sorry, not the terminology. For the 5 areas of giftedness, it was suggested to add where that information came from, and that was the National Association for Gifted Children. So that was added to that section. For the gifted and talented by grade levels, it was requested that we change it from, there was a K instead of kindergarten. So that was changed to kindergarten through 5th grade. There were some like formatting page break things that were suggested as well. So those, I'm not going to go through all those. This is where there was a large discussion around extension opportunities. So this is where most of the work happened. So Lalitha and I did a lot of work, and Taylor, around updating this and changing it to provide clarity for all stakeholders that do read this handbook. So some of the suggestions is to make sure that we have a clear line of communication, how these extension opportunities are being communicated out, and then also how are they being made available. So you can see on this document that each extension opportunity is added to this, when it's taking place, what grade levels are participating in it, what the access is, the content area that it would align to. And if there's any like additional requirements outside of school, currently we do have a resource time built into Glen Hills now. So we're utilizing that. And then the location of where this takes place. You can see up in the top paragraph, it explains as well the different means of communication. So it's communicated to classroom teachers, share out with students. Also, there's a handout that goes out. Lalitha is creating a flyer and a handout for Thursday folders prior to one of these extension opportunities happening. And then Ms. Young is also doing like a double communication. She's adding that to her parent newsletter as well. So students are getting communication for themselves. Parents are getting it twice. And then there is some wording in here, designated scholars only, something to pay attention to. Those would be students who qualified for gifted and talented services. So, and we also added a little more description of what exactly the extension opportunity is. So I'm not going to individually go through those because you had this. Then see, this is a good thing that we're scrolling through a lot of extension opportunities. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about, there was a change during the acceleration process. So during acceleration by grade level, there was a discussion around having check-ins by a guidance counselor. So that was added in here as well. So under the trial period, there is an addition of that a guidance counselor will be checking in. So the student will receive check-ins from the school guidance counselor, and the guidance counselor is part of the team. Whenever the parent meets for a qualification meeting, the guidance counselor will be attending those meetings. So that was a shift that we made in our system, which previously the guidance counselor was not attending. I have my messy copy, Andy, that's how I'm going through this.
Sure. You know, I have one quick question for you. My memory is that we didn't get through the whole book the last time that we did this as a group. So I thought that we were going to be, and I guess I'm trying to remember that, weren't we going to have another session, another work session?
we were splitting the groups. So we had half the group with Ms. Jolly, half the group with me. Then we were gonna, how we left the meeting was that we were gonna make revisions and bring it back to curriculum committee. That was
Okay.
my understanding.
Okay, well, it's been a couple months, so,
Yeah, and then I needed Lalitha to do some of this work and she was not available during some of the time.
and she's been involved in this from top down, huh?
Yes. Yes, she has. She's done a lot of work around it, so it's greatly appreciated. And then the appendixes, we didn't have any major changes to any of the appendixes, some formatting issues. And then what we did as a district is we created Google Forms that will be added to the website when this is uploaded to the website. So families can just click on the Google form. Instead of asking for a paper copy, they can move forward with a Google form.
Sure.
So those were all the edits and changes based on the feedback that was shared.
So Andy, this will come to the full board. So in the between now and then, I'm sure Jenica can send you like the old, so you have both.
Yeah.
And look at them side by side.
Or I can give you, my sloppy copy might be more helpful because I have written in where exactly the changes are, if you'd prefer that.
Yeah, so that's the old one with the notes. That's probably easier to see.
Yeah, that's fine. I just to have a comparison in case I have any questions.
Yep.
I mean, the other thing is it's a big document though, and so if you're showing it to the board, we should really kind of chart out where it started and where it ended, in any presentation to the board, and try to get that out to them, to the rest of the board, in advance, because it's already, Tuesday. If they only have a couple of days before, the thing, it's 50-something page document, so.
Mhm.
I'd like to, get it to them sooner so that they can have some opportunity to review it.
Yep. Well, the document's ready to go to the board. And the workflow that we created, I'm more than happy to share that. This is the process we went through for the board as well. And we've updated the board on that process a couple of times.
Mhm.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
And
Great.
obviously there'll
Happy
be.
to do
an
that, Andy.
executive- I'm sorry, I was gonna say there'll be an executive summary too that goes with it to help highlight some of the pieces.
Mhm.
sounds good.
Yep, I'll work on that. Do you have any questions or feedback for me besides those things you want me to work on, Andy?
Well, as I've gone through this and, because it's a pretty big document, I've only been able to kind of walk through it since you put the draft in here. My comments are largely, I guess related to, making sure that our gifted and talented coordinator is on board with, the content in here. I think that that's, really important to make sure that, that we have that in there. We have a lot of things kind of listed in here in terms of what the program is supposed to offer. And I think that a lot of this is very good information. Obviously, there's a lot of information here, particularly is what we're calling now, extension opportunities. And I guess, I think that it's really important to kind of understand how these things are being communicated to people. I think one of the criticisms that we've had with a lot of these, things is that activities, future city, spelling bee, geography bee, battle of the books, chess club. I mean, some of these things are not strictly speaking, gifted and talented, right?
Mhm.
They fall outside the program. So whether we call them extension or not, I don't really care so much about that. My big thing is we have a lot of opportunities for a lot of people to be involved in things, and I want to make sure that we're doing what we can to publicize these things here,
Mhm.
to make sure that people know that these are opportunities, that they can participate in. That's the big thing for me, to make sure that people feel like they've got a meaningful opportunity to, be a part of these things.
Mhm.
So I guess if you could speak to that, and how this handbook addresses, I guess, involvement or recruitment, or, what teachers are gonna be doing. I mean, I see dates, so I know that there's schedules, so I know things are timed out, so that's good. But what's a general plan for making sure that we get people to be involved in each of these items?
So it is a communication. Lolita meets with the classroom teachers. The classroom teachers share it out with the students. Then there's also a communication from Lolita in Thursday folder. So she creates a flyer for each one of these events prior to them happening. And then also it goes out in the principal every other week communication. So they're getting 3 communications around each opportunity.
So one thing that I would, want to address, which I think is really important, is that, and by the way, I mean, Ms. Morale, is an exemplar of, gifted and talented protocol and knowledge and involvement. She's really wonderful, and I know that she reached out to teachers to do a lot of these things. My perspective has always been that where there are breakdowns, somewhere that breakdown happens, between teachers and students. I will tell you that as a parent, there are plenty of times where I didn't know about a spelling bee until the last, couple of weeks. And the only reason why I did was because I kept asking about it and trying to figure out, when in December that would be. And I had a general idea when that would be. A lot of people just don't know about these things. And a lot of teachers just don't, promote these things. So, I want to make sure that there's some, I don't want to say oversight, but I guess there's no better way to put it. I want to make sure that, teachers are telling kids these are good things to be involved with, because I feel like maybe to some degree there's been a sense that it's not my class, so why am I selling it to kids? And, I certainly wouldn't paint all of our teaching staff with that kind of a brush there, but every teacher has their own thing to do, their own topic to cover. I don't know what we can do to kind of, just kind of nudge teachers to make sure that they mention these things in class. Um, that's my hope, because I think, we did a lot of work to highlight these wonderful activities for kids. We put them all front and center. We've done a great job of that in this handbook. And by the way, I mean, I think that's part of what we wanted to do. And I think that's going to go a long way towards selling this stuff to, kids who might be interested. I just want to make sure though that we kind of get teachers on board, to share these things with kids so that they know, because some of these things you blink and you miss it. And I just want to make sure, kids have that opportunity. So I mean, at 3 times, that's great. I realize that, you can't always make someone do something. But I find that parents have been kind of upset when something misses and kid didn't know about it or didn't know enough to bring it up. So that's my only concern in anything. I want to make sure these opportunities are available to as many people as possible. The program itself and the and the extension activities. So whatever we can do to make sure that it gets promoted, I think would be really good, especially after all the effort that went into it. So
And Andy, I can't speak to before me, but I would say just from my perspective, last year and continuing into this year, I feel like these opportunities and what she does are part of the fabric at Glen Hills. Like, I don't feel like it's separate. I feel like it's promoted, it's celebrated there. She's sending emails out all the time. She's collaborating with teachers. She's working across, grade levels. So I don't know if it always, you know what I mean? If maybe it wasn't always like that, if it felt more separate, but it definitely feels like all teachers at Glen Hills are proud of the work that Lolita does with students and all see it as a priority and something that's
I
important.
I appreciate that, and it's good to hear. I mean, I think that the year before this year, last year, when the resource class was, eliminated, was very detrimental to a lot of these things. And so I don't know if there's, I don't know if there's any ground to make up now that there is resource time.
It's
Which is,
interesting you say that, Andy, because I think the time is valuable for the students to have, but I think in some ways that happening made all teachers own it a little bit, which led to some of this culture piece. So it's good that we have the time back, but I feel like because she was pushing into classrooms and didn't have that separate time, it's almost like more staff were aware of what these opportunities were and what was going on. So there's a little bit of a silver lining to
Okay.
that in some ways.
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. That's
And
all I had.
And I'll include all of that in the executive summary as to what was put in place this year. So, you know, moving forward, we're sitting in a good place. So I'll
Sure.
share that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, if Ben, you don't have anything, then I'm gonna move on to B, which is math. curriculum.
No, I mean, so with the communication, why not? I mean, I'm assuming you guys do announcements over, during the daily announcements. So,
Yeah, Willie does with students announcements, so that could definitely be part of that.
okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So he works with students to create daily announcements. It's like a video and then
Oh.
they're played in last year he did them. This year he's pulling students in to do them with him, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a great idea.
Okay. And then another thing is, I don't know, I mean, I think I don't know how confused people get or not, but in the handbook, you kind of switch between scholars and students. Is it possible to be, was that purposeful, or is it possible to be consistent?
No, I'll double check on that.
Okay. And so I don't know, I guess I would just go with
That's a good catch.
I would just go with students, I guess, just because it's more like broad, but I
Yep.
mean, yeah.
I hear you. Yep. Our last edits were probably scholars.
I prefer the term students. I don't think scholar quite, we don't have to get into an extended discussion. I'm more concerned with consistency, but I think that scholars sometimes, I don't know, misses the mark in terms of, people kind of identifying with it. It's like a little distant. I think students just better word to use where possible. That's my thought.
Yep. We'll make that adjustment.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other?
No, not for me, Ben.
No.
All right, then let's move on to item 2B, math curriculum review.
Okay, so I just want to update the team. I talked a little bit about this at a previous board meeting, but this is the year that we are in a curriculum review process. I just want to kind of share out, this was part of the document, but you can see that this year we're focusing on math. So the 2022-23 school year, and that's for your reference as well for future curriculum reviews. You can kind of see that we do this with the partner districts. So we work with Nicolet, Fox Point Bayside, and Mapledale Indian Hill as a partnership to do these curriculum reviews. We all go to Nicolet, as you know, so we really want to have our curriculum aligned to Nicolet. So again, our district goals, I'm not going to read them to you, but we're really focusing in on our district goals, and that would be consistent goals for really all the districts, right? We want to improve our subgroups and those gaps. And then our goals for this team, the work that we're planning on doing is really having that alignment and identifying our priority standards for each grade level. What is best practice in instruction around mathematics, and then also creating common assessments, and then a data analysis progress monitoring system so that we can check in on data across districts to see kind of where we're headed, what we've done, is it working, and then just ways to dip back in on that. So part of the planning timeline was in June, July, and August. So most of the summer, the directors from the partner districts did planning around this curriculum review process. We are basing a lot of the work that we're doing around high quality curriculum review processes. We all were trained in that a couple of years ago. September, I'm bringing this up to all of us to really kind of talk a little bit about this so you're updated on it. Our math coaching team is currently, I shared this document with all the math teachers across the district and really trying to get, grow some interest in participating in this work. The math coaches are meeting with teams right now. Happy to say that we're trying to get at least one person from each grade level, a special education teacher and our math coaches to be a part of this process. So we have almost all the slots filled for the district. So that's great that people are willing to participate in this. And this is going to go across the school year. We also have a flyer that'll be coming out. It's a Google form that will be coming out Thursday in the district parent newsletter around getting parent interest as well. I can kind of show you what that looks like. So we're just requesting parent input around this. So this is kind of what the form is going to look like. So you'll receive that in the district email. Just asking some information. And then we'll also, like I said, we'll have a variety of stakeholders at the table for this. Oops, sorry, I can't get to my tab there. All right, so just kind of talking through the process real quick. I didn't put the core team in here yet because we still have 2 spots to fill, and I haven't gotten back with the coaches. I meet with them on Thursday, so that'll be filled in for the next update. But we do have some tasks that we're working on. We're really digging into DPI's website around the new standards. So there's quite a few videos that staff are going to need to pre-watch, and we've provided time for them to do this work. We're doing a gap analysis, so really looking at our current curriculum and seeing where we have any gaps based on the new standards that came out last year for mathematics. And really understanding what shifts were made in math. So our first meeting is really going to be focusing on sharing out the current state for each district, discussing and kind of analyzing those gap analyses from the different districts, and then kind of talking through the shifts, kind of splitting out into 2 different groups, elementary, middle, and then high school, and then kind of talking about it across a K-12 system. Our second meeting is going to focus more on creating that vision and reviewing the vision, so everyone's moving in the same direction, and then also digging into the instructional practices guides, which are on the DPI website. So we kind of break those apart and look at what are we doing really well, what might we need some additional training in. So that's kind of a full meeting and really helps us do some planning for the future around any PD that we need to do. The third meeting we'll have CISA 1 come out, and they're going to be working with us on some vertical and horizontal alignment, determining what our priority standards are. So this is probably going to bump into meeting number 4 in past practice, like for ELA and all of that. It's taken 2 meetings to get all that work done. So that's kind of why we left it as aligning to our commitments for the first meeting. I forgot to mention during the first meeting, we also, as a team of partner districts, we decide what we're going to focus on around math based on our gap analysis. And then we do some additional training and, do some work around that as well. So 5 will be focused on that. And then we're also just really specifically looking 6 through 12 because of articulation. We're really going to dig in articulation in April. And we may have to schedule an additional meeting in May for that articulation. So we have a solid articulation from the middle school to the high school. And then there'll be a presentation to the board in May, is what I'm planning. So that's kind of an overview of what's going to be happening. Hold on one second. Sorry.
That's all right.
So, any questions? They're just going to bark.
Well, if I can, I just want to make a comment. I think that math instruction, and first of all, there are challenges during the pandemic, so that's clearly one issue. But I want to be frank, and that is that I think that there were a lot of issues that I saw last year, and primarily as a parent, that I did everything that I could to deal with, but lots of issues with instruction, and that was boots on the ground kind of stuff. Training is really important. Now, I know that last year was a difficult year, and we had a lot of teachers who were dealing with burnout, and also just a lot of other challenges from what we had endured. What I felt that was going on in general, I really felt that um, students were in a disadvantaged place. I mean, they weren't given text for some time. There were some inconsistencies about online resources. And then the ALEC system that was brought in, I mean, I don't remember discussing that as a board, but it was brought in, and then how it was used seemed to change at random, and how grading took place in eighth grade math seemed to just, change, at random without any consistency. And I think it's really hard to learn things without having a book in front of you. I think it's really hard to learn things when those standards change. And I think that, those are things that need to be addressed, not just in terms of what the curriculum is, because, frankly, I have a lot of faith in you, Jenica, in terms of getting the right, curriculum out there and finding, the right thing to keep up with the kids. But I think that, somehow we have to, and I'm hoping with a lot of rent services and so forth, but I'm hoping that we find a way to re-engage our teachers, and also kind of leave some of these things that are really kind of crucial holes, not leave them unfilled. And so I hope that that's part of the review too, not just what learning should take place, but how we should be, instructing, because I think that that's really important, and that's got to go hand in hand with the curriculum review. It's got to be a part of, our teacher training. And so that wasn't just, my observation. That was something that I'd heard from other parents throughout the year. I found that in general, there are two tracks of students, and I feel like a lot of students have gotten, discouraged over the last. And again, by the way, this is all like, fresh, empty, tabula rasa kind of stuff here. I mean, I want to make sure that we, improve, have a good fresh start, and not look back. But I think that those are, concerns that we've had with how we've kind of, given our instruction in math. I don't feel like learners at the top were encouraged to learn. And more than once, frankly, as a parent, I got the message that, good is good enough. And so I just want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to encourage people to learn, and to, encourage them to achieve. And, I've gotten that sense from you. I've gotten that sense from, Ms. Weiss. I just want to make sure that we don't have any of those, holes that I felt like we had, primarily as a parent, over the last couple of years. So.
Mhm.
I was just gonna say that we agree with you, and that's part of the reason we wanted to look at implementing high leverage strategies and practices in the classroom, because that's every content area, right? When you talk about what good instruction looks like. So 100%.
That's great to hear. And I appreciate that.
Yep, and we are doing some really good coaching. We have a professor from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee who's working with our middle school team currently,
Great.
coaching them. So there's some really good things being put into place to support that. And the addition of a math interventionist and coach also supports some of this moving forward for that professional development.
Terrific. That's good to hear. Thank you for addressing that.
Mhm.
Yeah, my only concern is, I mean, this has kind of been a trend lately where it's like, and again, I mean, I went to UWM too, so I know it's kind of how they teach, best practices or whatnot, but there is this focus on discovery learning, critical thinking, things like that. And with the curriculum we have, it's kind of a focus on that too, because I've tried to teach with it. It's it's less whole class instruction, more group work. But my concern is that you can't critically think without knowledge. So, you know, when we choose a new curriculum, you know, it would be nice if we could take a look at, you know, how much explicit instruction is, you know, used within this curriculum. You know, make sure it's knowledge rich, meaning, you know, there's a lot of content manageable, but also a lot of purposeful practice, you know, meaning we're not just, you know, giving them worksheets, but like, you know, mini whiteboards, for example, are really good. Because not only that, you know, not only is it a lot of practice, but you can give the class formative feedback immediately. So, you know, I just want to make sure that, you know, when we're choosing this, because again, I know the trend. You know, I'm very aware of it. It would be nice if we could also, you know, either once we choose a curriculum, you know, we add supplemental, you know, something supplemental with that's a huge focus on explicit instruction. And anyway, I know it's a year-long process, so we don't really have something tangible to talk about right now, but
Yeah.
I just want there to be, at least in your mind, you know, a focus or like looking out for, you know, how much explicit instruction is actually encouraged with the curriculum we choose.
I completely hear you, Ben. And one positive is block scheduling, because in the past, you were not really able to do that curriculum if you're not in a block. I mean, when you're trying to do it in a 45-minute period, I mean, it's nearly impossible to do it with fidelity, right? But the explicit instruction, absolutely. And that's some of the work that our coach is working on, some of those pieces, and then also adding in some of those feedback pieces with whiteboards, and then also including, you know, whiteboards throughout the classroom and having opportunities for students show their work and get that feedback. So absolutely.
Yeah, like formative feedback, it has the highest effect size, and mini whiteboards are like the cheapest way to have the biggest impact on student achievement.
Yeah.
Ben,
Yeah.
I'm smiling because I walked into a second grade classroom last week and they were all on the carpet with their whiteboards, and she was illustrating for them. You know, 1 + 9 is the same as 9 + 1, like going through this whole, and every single one of them was, they did it on their whiteboards. She gave them the feedback. Like, I'm just smiling because it's exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
And that was in a second grade room. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We have a lot, we have a lot of whiteboards.
Okay. Good.
Great.
Oh.
Thank you.
And Ben, if you want to sign up,
Yeah. I mean, for which ones?
the math being on the
All
team. Feel
For
free.
the not for the, because you have meetings yourself
No, it
with other director of instruction people.
would be, I'll pull it up on the screen again. So the meetings here, I'll share this with you.
Okay.
Curriculum review interest form.
Yeah, I might be able to manage it now that I have a more, I'll see if I can do it. I have a more flexible schedule.
Yeah.
Now.
Why not, right?
That's great.
Any other questions around the process, or, and I'll continue to do updates as well. Just waiting after a couple meetings we get under our belt. Anything else?
Nope. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, I am just going to go to visitor participation. During visitor participation, visitors may speak on a non-agenda item. So does anyone have any questions or comments? Going once, going twice, sold. Okay, we're going to close visitor participation, and may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second that, and a voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you again, Jenica and Allison, for the hard work you do on this.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.